Hi there, mateys. Captain Benjamin Broadside again, and today we're talking about ships. All pirates need ships. Lots of pirates used to use a sloop or a brigantine. Those were the ships they used the most. Some people would use a carrack, and Blackbeard used to use a man o' war, which is a really, really big ship. But today we're going to learn a little bit about ships. So, one of the most important things is this dangly bit here. That's the anchor. Now you need an anchor to drop into the ocean. It'll sit on the ocean floor and it'll stop your ship from going away too far. So instead of doing that, it'll just go anchors away, bunk, into the water, and the ship can only rock backwards and forwards a little bit, only as far as the chain will let it. Next thing we have at the bottom here, we have the keel and the hull. Now they form the bottom of the ship. So when you're sailing through, those are the bits you need if you want to stay afloat. If anything happens to either of them, you're in big trouble. Then we have this little bit at the back here. That's the rudder. Now the rudder is what helps steer. So when they're up there turning their big ship's wheel, I have a ship's wheel. Here we go. So when they're turning their big ship's wheel, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to move the rudder so they can slowly steer their ship, hopefully to their destination and hopefully out of the way of trouble. Next, we have the masts. Now, some ships don't have as many masts as this, some ships have more. But we've got the foremast, which is at the front of the ship. We have the mainmast, which is in the middle of the ship. And sometimes on the mainmast, you might have a little basket up here called the crow's nest, and that's where your lookout sits. Then at the end here, we have the mizzen. Now, I won't go into what all the different sails are called today, but these are all your different sails, and they all can be lifted up and folded up, or they can be let out so all the air can fill them. Some ships even have more sails on the front, and even more still, sometimes have sails all the way down here to try and get as much speed as possible if they can catch that wind. You can see we've got all the ropes, and then if you look inside here, we have the deck. Now, the deck is where everything happens. All the people are up on top of the deck. When you go below decks, that's where you start going down into the hull. The deck is sort of like the lid of the ship. What if you thought of it like a big container? That would be the lid. And that's where most people are most of the time when they're working. Then they all go underneath, below deck when they want to sleep. Then we've got a few little fun bits here. Right at the front here, you can sort of see right there. This little bit up the front is the forecastle, which is the forecastle. And then when you do around here a bit, you got your bowsprit, which is this big long point comes out here. And whenever you see any ships, most old sailing ships will have a bowsprit. Then you've got your forepeak, which is the peak at the front, which is why it's also fore, same as with foresail, if we remember. That's also called the beak. And my little ship doesn't have it, but sometimes if you've got a little figure there that's, guiding your ship, that's called the figurehead. Sometimes it's a mermaid, sometimes it's like an animal's head, sometimes it could be a bird, but it's always just a big carved piece that they sit on the front there to help guide the ship. It doesn't actually guide the ship, it's just there to look very nice, but it's looking out for you anyway, so they are a fun thing to have. If I had my ship right here with me now, I would have a figurehead. When we come around to the side again, these here, they're the cannons. the cannons come out of the gun port. The cannon, what have we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 10 guns, and then 10 guns. So we would call this a 20-gun ship. Even though you can only really use 10 at a time, you would call this a 20-gun ship. Which means some ships only had maybe 6 or 8 guns. Some ships had a lot more. There were some ships that were very big that had over 40 or sometimes over 50 guns. But this one would still do okay in a ship battle. And then we come to the second most important part of the ship, which is the quarterdeck up here. And it's sort of like the forecastle, but just at the other end. And then the most important part right here, in those little windows there, and in these little windows here, that's the captain's quarters. That's where I sleep. The captain's quarters always had a nice big bed. They usually had a big writing desk, and usually it had a dining table as well, so he could eat at a proper dining table. Lots of sailors would have to sit off to the side, maybe just crouch down and eat their food, but the captain always got to sit and have a civilized meal. Well, that's all I've got for you today, guys, and I hope you enjoyed that little chat about ships.